So with drawing broadening formations, we're going to be talking about like drawing forward or drawing backward and how to draw them and when they form, when new broadening formations form. So typically new broadening formations form anytime we make a new swing low or a new swing high, right? After we take one or the other out, right? So when we so right now, or not just a new swing high. What I mean by that is like a higher high. So we have this swing high, right? Is this a broadening formation? No, that's not, because that is lower than the one to the left, right? So it's not a broadening formation. But it's a swing high nonetheless. Now let's think about others. So this here is a swing low on some time frame. We're on the hourly time frame, but on some time frame that went down, came back up, right? Made this little swoop. I'm gonna go back to the hour. And then these are also broadening formations, but we're not gonna focus on them at the moment. If we move forward, so if we take out this low here, where this 3 is, if we take that out, then we form another swoop like this. That means a new broadening formation is formed, all right? So let's see. So here, we hit this. By take out, what we mean is that we hit it and we get past it, right? So we hit that. And then, if this is curving up, right? And because this is a lower low than that, then we connect those dots. We connect these two lines here. I'm gonna delete that. So if I draw backwards, I start from the newest swing low, because we just made a lower low, draw back to the previous one, and then that creates this range here, right? And so, with the strat, after a new broadening formation is formed, what we look for after is an actionable signal. And that could be an inside candle, a hammer, or a shooter. And so in this case, we had an inside candle. And so that means it's right here. Let me put an arrow. This right here is what we're looking for. A break of an inside candle gives us an entry. And then, so above here, where I'm drawing green, it's a possible entry. And above here is also one. So the entry comes simply because it's after a new broadening formation was formed. So because we made this lower low, we took out this 3, then bounced, started holding up here, made a new swing low, and then formed an actionable signal. So that means here is where an entry for calls can come. We would ideally want time frame continuity in our favor, right? And then what our levels that we may trade it back to, if that's our entry for calls, is every previous high, right? And possibly back up to this swing high, the one all the way up there. I could throw some extra stuff about market structure and trend. The fact that we're trying to make higher highs and higher lows or so. Maybe this, if we're in an uptrend and this low's higher than that one, that might mean we're kind of ranging up, right? In an uptrend. And so that then would mean that this highest point up here is our final target. If we can get back to this previous high, right? So this is the entry. Whoop. I can actually type it here. Forgot that TradingView added that feature. It doesn't want to work for some reason. whatever. If we say entry for calls, right there, then our strike price would be one of these levels, right? So that could be 175 because it's 175.76, or then maybe that's about 178 because of this target up there. So let's see how this plays out. It gets all the way up there, right? Takes out this target. So from this entry here, we hit the target, we take some profit off the table. All of these previous highs of these candles are targets, right? And all of these can be profit areas. But then as soon as we get to this previous high, you see that the stock pulled back a little bit. But notice what happened here. What happened here at this moment? When we hit this previous high in this moment, clearly we see we pulled back, but that then created a new swing high, right? Because we went up and then went the other way. So then we take it from there, draw backwards, and now this triangle area is now the range that we can trade within for a time being, right? Well, we can use this as our playground, essentially, okay? And now what happens from here is that it starts to trade and then the price starts to expand, okay? Price can start to expand, either continue up to the area of the other broadening formation, or, you know, you could be trading it like all different types of ways. Any single time you see a rejection of any of these sides of the area, and then an actionable signal, which is like a shooter or an inside candle. So back here, when this happened, by the way, when we create a new broadening formation, you could have taken puts right here, right? You could have taken puts right here. The thing is time frame continuity on your side? Not really. And so puts were just okay, right? And you kind of didn't really get that much pullback until this point, right? And so the trade did work out if you use some of these as your previous lows, right? But you're not going to get a crazy dump as long as time frame continuity on the higher time frame, especially the month and the quarter, because we can just keep going. Anytime you see a 3, that means the literal definition of a 3 is a higher high and a lower low. And so in that case, it's all about what's the most recent high of the previous candle that we took out. I'll show you what I mean. So the literal definition is a higher high and a lower low. So when you draw backwards, what you can do is take a line, draw from the candle, and go to the left. And now see what the most recent high of previous candle it is that we took out, right? And so the most recent candle that's below this red line is here, the top of this wick of this 3. So we can do there, that is a smaller broadening formation, right? These are all real. From here, we draw from this candle, draw to the left. And we see what's the most recent low we took out from there. And it's this one, the bottom of this 1. From there to there, right? And so ignoring all this other stuff from before, not to ignore it because it still exists, right? And we clearly saw that it does still exist. But we can say that there's a new broadening formation that was formed because of this 3, right? So right now, we ignore all the, not that we ignore all the stuff to the left, just when this broadening formation was created, here to here, right? Now we're looking forward. But because a new broadening formation was created, and then an inside candle formed right after, aka this one, we had a 3, then a 1. That then means a new possibility for an entry for calls, especially if we're taking it back up into time frame continuity, right? And again, this is because we drew from here, go backwards, from that to that, right? I'm going to make these blue to make it more clear. And we drew backwards, there to there. So this blue area is our new playground. At least a smaller playground than the other one, right? This becomes an entry for calls, and then the top and all the previous highs become possible exits, right? And the thing about the strat is that if time frame continuity is in your favor, there's just more likelihood that we are going to get back and just get to these previous highs. It's so likely because that's just how price action works. And that's why we love the strat and how reliable it can be, right? So when you take from this high, it looks like it hit it and pulled back just slightly, right? You would just say, you know, during this time, as long as we keep making new candles that make new highs, that no matter what, we are getting to the target. And you have to have the confidence that's going to happen, especially if time frame continuity continues to be solid. I think this is a little glitch here. This is actually, I believe, green. But, and you see, it just does it, right? It just does it. From once the playground's formed, you find a new opportunity with an inside candle or a hammer, whatever it is, and then take it to the target. And you can just do this over and over again. Any single time there's a new high or a new low that's formed with a reversal. Okay, anytime there's a newer high with a reversal or a newer low with a reversal, there's a trade opportunity waiting right there for you most of the time. You just gotta make sure time frame continuity is in your favor. So this is an example on IBM. All right. One more example I'm gonna cover is with Ion Q. So this is a great example. Okay. So I'm on the weekly time frame, right? This has been really rough, right? So I can do this both ways, actually. I see 2 examples, but the last example is gonna be the kicker. But pay attention. So when we're here, right? This is the weekly time frame. We made this swing low back here, right? What's the most recent or lowest low that we took out from this low? It appears to be maybe this one back here. And so that's one right there, right? Because we're looking for the most recent low. So that may be the broadening formation from there to there. Okay? On the downside. Now let's see if this makes a new swing high. Okay, we make a high. So here, since this is a weekly time frame, we just should know that all of these wicks are reversals on smaller time frames. It just makes sense, right? We know that. It's very true. We know that to be true. These are all wicks the wicks mean that there's reversals on lower time frames. So because of that, we can actually make that assumption that if those are reversals, if this is one reversal on the smaller time frame, this is one reversal on the smaller time frame, that this is a higher reversal, right? We can either connect that to that for a broadening formation, or connect this highest candle, because we know that this is, this whole thing here was a swing high. We can go back in time from here, go backwards again. Find the most recent high that was taken out, which is this one right here, right? And connect that dot. So after that, right, we get our actionable signal. On autostratic, we can actually see this, right? Let's make this large for a moment, because it generated a trade idea, right? It had this trade idea. It says 30% confidence that this would work out, but it's mostly bearish, right? They were mostly bearish, 60 score bearish. But look, and you see how many actionable signals it's saying here in the action box, right? Almost all of them. So that means this becomes a tradable setup, because we just created our playground, right? We create our playground. Let's mark where the playground is, because we formed this range from the bottom of this broad information to this upwards line. So this area here becomes a playground. And so based on the strat, it's possible to go from the top of one broadening formation to the other, which is when things get real juicy and we can get multi-100%, 1,000% trades, or at least huge moves on the stock. So from here, right, from this shooter, if we trigger these puts, and you saw it gave some June contracts for that to work out, that all of these previous lows become our targets where we can take profit. But it's nice when you see a setup here and the targets are far away, because then we just understood that if we take a trade with this setup where there's broad information formed, actionable signal, then the trigger, we take it with high confidence that we can get to those targets, especially if time frame continuity is in our favor. And in this case, it seems the quarter was down, the week was down, so on and so forth, right? And it looks like it made an even higher high. This actually wasn't an inside candle. This ended up, it looks like this finished actually as a shooter, not an inside candle. So this finished as a shooter. It made one more higher high, right? But it's finished the week as a shooter. So that, it wasn't an inside candle what it finished as. I had to advance a little bit. So this actually then became an even higher confidence put swing. And that's what the strat score indicator is telling us on autostratic. So we don't need autostratic to sort of what we're walking through in terms of broad formations. I'm just using autostratic as a reference because you can use it to help you with understanding the strat and understanding why the market works like this, because most of the logic in autostratic is built using the strat as well as other algorithmic data. So eventually we triggered that shooter that said it had an 85% confidence score of from the trigger hitting the target or moving 1%. This actually moved 3% from the trigger to those things. Can this go even further? Let me turn autostratic off for just a moment, just so that we get back to the point being made. We triggered puts right there, right? We got to those targets. Because we hit those targets, we could bounce. You know, we could bounce up in this area a bit. But the thing is, time frame continuity is still fully red. If we get another breakdown, that means we still have the possibility of getting to the other side of the playground, to the other side of the broadening formation, and take out this low potentially, as long as we keep getting a breakdown, right? Keep falling. We hit a new high, but then we still make a lower low. Technically, that's a new broadening formation that was created up in there. But that's an expansion of the range to the downside. So that we formed a new range, but if we break out of that, we're expanding the range to however far it wants to go. And just like that, we get all the way from the top to the bottom. 500% trade, 1,000% trade, right? Just like that. But so now that the chart hit that previous low and we hit the bottom of this broadening formation, if we then form an inside candle and we start bouncing, and that on the low, I'm going to just go with lower time frame to show that we took that low and now we form a new swing low. We know what time it is. A new broadening formation, you look for an actionable signal. And so on the daily, it was this candle that's right here. On the daily, it was that candle where we made a newer low and then finally formed an actionable signal. But then on the weekly, we formed an inside candle. And so if we then break this, because we created a new playground, and we also knew that this was a broadening formation here, right? We know that this was a broadening formation, but the moment we fully broke through this low here, when we did this 3, then the 2, we invalidated that for the most part, right? But this top part was never invalidated. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to draw a different area just to show you, because we made this lower low, this candle here, or excuse me, this mark here. So the newer playground is between these yellow lines, okay? Because we made this lower low, lower swing low, and then started bouncing, formed an actionable signal. And we made this higher high, and we formed a broadening formation known because of this 3. So then our new playground becomes up in this area. Okay. I'm going to delete the old one just to make it clear. And so if Ion Q, this stock, now that we formed this new range, because of this inside candle, if we break from here and we took out this major low back here, this red line, then our new targets back to the upside, and especially if we get good time frame continuity, that all the way up here becomes our new targets. Does everyone see that? And so after this week, when we start the new week, we actually start a new month. Let me advance for a bit. So here, last week, Monday, we started a new month, which means new time frame continuity all the way to the 6-month. So we had a new 6-month chart, a new 3-month chart, which is the quarter, a new month, a new week, a new day. So the price where this opened, I'm going to mark it here that this is the opening price of July. Right? It's the opening price of July right there. And that here, that entry for calls weekly. So if we break above that level, first, time frame concept was red when we started it, right? But if we get above the opening price, all of this goes green down here, where it says the week, month, and quarter. All of that goes green if we get above that pink line. We got above it. What does that mean? Full time frame continuity, green. Right? We break above here. Right here at the bottom, let me make that bigger. This is my time frame continuity indicator. That goes green. Right? And has an arrow pointing up because we triggered that. So now that we triggered and we enter this thing for calls, and because we're on the weekly, typically I like to buy options that are at least 1 month out. Let's see what AutoStrategic said. From here is a bit closer, right? But it said July 19th. $8 calls. Why? Because the target up here, 837. Because again, when it takes the trigger and time frame continuity is in our favor and we just formed a new playground, you just have the utmost confidence that we can get to that target. You push the button and you expect it to get to the target. All right? You push the button, expect it to get to the target because you know where we can get to based on the range that was formed. As such, this hit the first target. This hit the second target. The final piece here that I'm going to explain. When we hit the top of our playground, the range, this yellow line, the blue area, what happened? That we already likely knew was going to happen. We pulled back, we reversed. This is how broadening formations work. Because that is how far it was meant to be able to go because of the range that we were trading in. All right. Does this make sense, everybody? That is the whole story. And that is why the strat works. That's why AutoStrategic works. That's why when you see a setup, sometimes it takes some time. Right? It does take some time. You realize that, this started pulled back at first, this, that, and the other, and then started moving. But it's like, as long as as time keeps going, as it takes time, you just have to make sure that the time frames and the candles are continuing in the same direction towards the target. As long as it is continuously doing that and still going, because you see here, we broke the high of the previous candle. We broke the high of the previous candle, which meant we were going to keep going. On the daily, every single thing here, new high candle, new high candle. We made a low, but then made a new high, another new high, which means that we then just keep going towards the target, towards the top of the area. But that's how you draw them, right? That is the real way. This is like the most accurate way about how you draw broadening formations, how you use them, how you always use time frame continuity in your favor, but that this is then how you can consistently find what range we're trading in, where is the actionable signal, which gives you the entry, and if those targets are far away, the better. Those far away targets from an entry give you so much profit, right? Because it's more movement, it's more space for you to play. The bigger the playground, the more time you got to play, the more fun you're gonna have. So say it with me now. The bigger the playground, the more fun you will have. And that more fun means more 100%, 200%, 500%, 1,000% trades.